Welcome to Where Passion Meets Purpose. I'm your host, Jen Mentasana. On this show, we help busy moms and entrepreneurs find more passion and purpose in their daily lives through inspiring stories and interviews. Welcome back, everyone, to Where Passion Meets Purpose. I'm your host, Jen Mentasana. Today, we have the most amazing guest on the show. This is actually truly a dream come true for me. And I just can't say enough about this incredible human being. She's one of the most inspirational women I have ever met in my entire life. And you are so lucky that you are tuning in today to hear this episode. Amberly Lago is a former professional dancer. She's a former model and fitness trainer. She's an entrepreneur, a best-selling author, a motivational speaker, and the host of the podcast, The Amberly Lago Show. She's a top resilience and transformational coach and was featured in USA Today as one of the top most influential speakers in the country. Amberly has been featured on the Today Show, Hallmark, Health and Shape Magazine, Entrepreneur Magazine, USA Today, and Forbes. And she speaks all over the country to large audiences about how to find resilience and purpose in your daily life and how to find joy through the journey. So without further ado, welcome, Amberly. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh my goodness, Jen, you're so amazing. Can you just go around everywhere with me and like make introductions?
I would love to.
You're so sweet. Sometimes I have to be honest. I'm like, I hear an introduction and you're saying this stuff and I'm like, who? Me? Who's she talking about? Oh, God, I did that.
I know.
So thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here and just so excited to be on your show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I have to just share with our audience today that Amberly is truly the catalyst for me starting this show. A little over a year ago, I had a dream. I actually have had a dream most of my life to do this in some capacity, but I woke up one day and just said, I really want to do a podcast, but I'm scared. I don't know how to start. And I started I started looking into podcasts and researching, and I found Amberly's show, and I was just in love with her from the beginning, listening to her interview people. She was the most authentic and real and incredible woman. And then after that, reading your book, Joy Through the Journey, and learning all about your story and how incredible you are. And then not long after that, we connected and I joined your mastermind group. And it's just been so incredible ever since. You have truly been the hugest gift in my life. And I'm so grateful for you.
Oh, I'm so grateful for you. And yeah, I think that you had reached out to me and we hopped on a Zoom call or something.
Yes,
And
that's
we
what
just
happened.
like hit it off. And it was the
Yep.
same when we jumped on this call today. It's like we were talking and talking. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we got a show to record.
Right. Exactly. It's like we could talk for hours. I feel like you're one of those people that just, and I know you're like this with everyone. You really just are the most open and kind-hearted human being. And you have so much good to share with the world. And I just want our audience, our listeners to hear more about your story, your true resilience and purpose and, going through life with grit and grace and how to do it. Because, I'll set this up a little bit. I want our listeners to read your book. I want them to go and find True Grit and Grace on Amazon or wherever books are sold and read your story. You have told your story about your motorcycle accident a gazillion times. And I don't want to take too much time on that today because I know that the listeners will get so much out of reading your book. I'm actually thinking about offering the first 5 listeners that download this episode, I'm going to send them a book, but that's, we'll talk about that later.
Hey, I tell you what, Jen, let's do that. I'm going to see you in a few days. I will give you 5 books that you can give to your listeners.
Oh my God, you're so amazing. Thank you. Oh, that's so
y'all,
awesome.
I think you should have them share it and tag you on Instagram. And the first people that tag you when they've listened to this episode, they will get a copy of the book, a signed copy of the book.
Oh my gosh, that wasn't even planned. Thank you, Amberly. Thank you so much for offering that. And they are going to be so changed forever by reading your book. So I'll just set this up a little bit by starting out with it was about what 2010. You were in a motorcycle accident while you were living here in Los Angeles with your family. Life changing experience. You almost lost your life. You woke up in the emergency room after being put in an induced coma. And you were told, thankfully, they saved your life, but you were told that they were going to amputate your leg and that you had a 1% chance of saving your leg. And I just want to kind of, I know that's a lot to throw out there, but I just kind of want to start by you telling us what happened in that moment. What was that thing that told you, oh, I've got a chance?
I really, that's such a great question. And thank you for setting that up in such a great way. Um, I think in that moment, it's very important to pay attention to what we listen to and what we put our focus on. And, I grew up, I was the shortest for a long time. I know that's hard to believe because I'm 5'10" now, but I was the skinniest and the shortest and not the best. I got, kicked off the basketball team the
Mhm.
very first game, and it was a
That's
church
hard to
basketball
believe.
team, which,
Wow.
you know, and so what that taught me was if I want something, I'm going to have to work really hard for it. And it taught me a lot of things growing up, taught me to believe in myself because I didn't have a lot of people that believed in me. And I just remember, I didn't know this at the time, but looking back, growing up a dancer, I remember thinking, like even closing my eyes, and if I could visualize myself doing 3 pirouettes, I could do 3 pirouettes. If I could visualize myself doing five, I could do five. But the same was true if I got psyched out and in my head and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to do this and I'm going to fall out of that turn. I did every time. And so I learned that your mindset played a huge role. That and sports, I think, really helped me with my mindset. I tried out for the track team the last day. So they had been conditioning themselves for weeks and I needed a PE credit. So I was like, what the heck? I'll try out for the track team and tried out to be a miler. And I'm running around the track and I'm running beside this one friend. And she goes, man, this is too hard. Let's just quit. I said, oh, I'm not quitting. And I kept running. And when I thought, I am not quitting, I'm not quitting, I'm not quitting, I ran and I made it to the team. And through that time, I had a great coach who pushed me hard. She did believe in me, um, pushed me hard, but it was so much about mindset. And that mindset that I had as an athlete and as a dancer, um, I ended up setting a state record for Texas for running the fastest mile. And like I said, I started off, I was the scrawniest, not the strongest, but I think so much starts in your mindset. So when I was told I had a 1% chance, look, when I was moving from Texas to California, everybody was saying, you'll never make it. You do not have a chance. And I was like, oh, really? Watch me. I am going to go after my dreams. And um, a month later, I was dancing on an MC Hammer video. You know what I mean? And so I learned that I think not being the smartest or the best, kind of being the underdog, developed grit, developed my mindset, and it helped me. And so when I was told I can't or chances are slim, I was like, okay. And when I was told you have a 1% chance, I was like, there's still a chance. I was just my mindset had been so trained to hunt for the good, to focus on the good, listen to the right words, listen to the right voices. And another thing, I really learned to um, talk to myself instead of listen to myself because, man, I
Mm.
have an inner critic and I can get in my head and, we were talking right before this call and I'm like, oh my goodness, my final manuscript is due tomorrow for my next book. And I can get in my head. I don't know how other authors are, but writing this next book, it was a lot like, whoa, what if people don't like it? What if they, liked the first book and they hate this one? Or who do I think I am to share this? And I'm no guru. I don't even think I'm great. Right. Like, and I have to go, stop it, Amberly,
Mhm.
and talk to myself and reaffirm positive affirmations and also make sure that I'm surrounding myself with the right people.
Yeah. Wow, that's a big one for sure. And I hear what you're saying about talking to yourself. I know one of the things that you talk a lot about in the book when you were in the hospital recovering from the 34 or 36 surgeries, I think it was, how gratitude was a big part of what would get you in the right mindset when you were starting to feel frustrated and you couldn't get out of bed on your own. And there were those days where you just felt like maybe I'm not going to be able to make it. The gratitude
Mm.
practice was a big part for you as well.
It is. And I say practice because I do practice it every day. I mean, not a day goes by
Mm.
that I don't practice gratitude. And I think that it's also important to have gratitude in action, meaning not just thinking about it, but really expressing it and showing people how you appreciate them. In fact, I have an amazing, I don't know if you have met Kiva on my team,
Mm.
but she helped for 5 years produce my first podcast, which I rebranded. And when I rebranded, they told me I'm working with another production company and they're like, oh my goodness, we don't put this on the back end of your WordPress website. And I'm like, I do not like being on the back end of my WordPress website. And so I called Kiva back and I was like, Kiva, is there any way, I don't even know if you have time, but can I hire you back on to help me out? And she's like, Amberly, you're always so appreciative. And I love working with you because you're, you're a cheerleader and you're grateful for everything that I do for you. And I think that's so important to show people that you genuinely appreciate them. Um, and, another example, I just got back. I'm like, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? I got back from doing a keynote in Salt Lake City. Not only did I call the speaker bureau, which they found me through the speakers bureau, I called them and said, thank you so much for working with me and helping me along the way and making it so easy. And anyway, I wrote this long email and I wrote the host of the event and told them thank you as well. And I did a post telling them thank you, and they were so appreciative of that. I don't know if people just don't do that, but um I think that gratitude in motion and little things like, I remember when Ruby and I were starving. We had just moved to Texas and we didn't realize, in LA, things stay open like 24/7. And
Yeah.
we had moved to this town and we're like, there is nothing open. We had no groceries. We had just been unloading boxes all day and we're driving it around and we finally find, and we were just exhausted from moving. And we finally find this Whataburger and it's like 11:30 at night and we're finally getting to eat. And, we pull through the drive-through, we order, and I said, "Hey, could you buy this guy's meal behind us?" I didn't know who was behind us, but I was like, "Can I pay for their food as well?" And they said, "Sure." So Ruby and I pull up. We were not going to wait till we got home to eat. We pulled into a parking place and we're like scarfing down these burgers. And this truck rolls up next to us and rolls his window down. And I'd already kind of forgotten what I what we had done. And we look over and he said, "Thank you so much, ma'am." Oh, he was so sweet. He was like, it makes me emotional because
Yeah.
he was like in tears um, for a hamburger. And I'm like, wow, the impact that you can make just with gratitude in action. Um, can you tell I get emotional when I just think
And it's
about somebody?
and this is why I just love you so much, and why our listeners are so blessed to listen to you tell that story, is because you genuinely are the most giving and caring individual, and the things that you do for others and the things that you teach others how to be, you are spreading joy and
Oh,
love and gratitude and appreciation to the world, to strangers, to anyone that you can, because that's genuinely who you are. And you're teaching so many others to do the same. And you're literally making the world a better place. And we all can do that. I think that's so, the message that you're sending right now, that's so important for people to hear, is that if you're in a bad place, be in a place of service. It will shift your energy right away. And it's not just about like, oh, like saying thank you, but actually doing something without even knowing the person, with buying a hamburger, buying someone a coffee in the line behind you, taking, walking an old lady across the street, as they say in the old stories, right? Doing those things genuinely out of the goodness of your heart shares joy and love and spreads it out to the rest of the world. And then it comes back to you.
well, I have to say something really quick. Okay, this just made me think of this when you said that the little old lady across the street. Um, so I haven't thought about this in years, but this is when I lived in LA and I was, probably 21 years old, and I had a convertible CJ7 Jeep,
Oh
and
gosh,
there
my
was this
favorite.
it was so much fun. It was so much fun. And I got the top off and the doors off, and there's a little old lady, and she looked lost, and I pulled up next to her and I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, are you okay?" And she goes, "No, I can't really remember where I'm going." And I said, "Well, that's okay. I'll help you get home." Well, my Jeep had big tires and a little bit of a lift. I go to the side and I pick this lady up and put her in my CJ7, and we eventually found her home. And she was just, I mean, I don't know if she told anybody that story, but if she had grandkids, they must have thought, "Are you crazy?" But
Yeah.
I think that practicing gratitude, it helps me every day. The minute I wake up, Jen, the minute, and this is something that I've always done, is I would pray, but I've been doing something a little bit different lately. I've been actually getting intentional about getting on my knees.
Mm.
So I get right on my knees from the moment I wake up, and I thank God. I say the things that I'm grateful for. And I also ask for things like, help me to stay sober one more day so I can be of service to others. And then the last thing I do when I get in bed at night is I just, sometimes it's the quickest prayer. It's just like, thank you, thank you, thank you, God, thank you. And when you can practice that gratitude, it takes, for me, it calms my mind. It keeps me in
Mhm.
serenity. It gets me focused on what I do have instead of what I don't have, and what I can do instead of what I don't do. And, I also practice with a group of ladies. We call ourselves the God Squad. And we use an app and we just type in what we're grateful for and we send that. And there are 8 of us in that text thread. And sometimes I'll look at my phone. I'm like, how do I have 36 text messages? And it's because a few people will text their gratitudes and everybody will go in and like it. But
Mhm.
just being able to say what you're grateful for, even on a day when you wake up and life feels really hard, it really does change everything. And I noticed that from the moment, I was in a hospital bed in the hospital. I noticed that when I wrote down the names of the nurses and my clients and my friends that were visiting me, and because I didn't want to excuse me, I didn't want to forget to write them a thank you note, was why I was writing down their names and everything. And I noticed, even when I was writing thank you notes out, the way it shifted me from despair and looking down at my leg with disgust and worry and fear, it put me in a place of, oh my goodness, I'm alive. I've got great nurses taking care of me and amazing doctors and friends and family that love me. Like I have so much. And
Right.
so I think it's really been my medicine.
It is, you have taught me this as well. And it is the thing I do the very first thing in the morning. I like to joke that I get out of bed and get my coffee first, and then I get back in bed and write down my list because I do love to look forward to my coffee. But it is, and you, what you talk about taking it a step further and putting gratitude into action. I think it's one thing to write those things down and shift, but then also to put them into action, to write someone, that person that you wrote down. I'm thankful. I can't count how many times I've said I'm thankful for Amberly, but I should also
Oh,
then send you a text and say, Amberly, I just want you to know how grateful I am for you in my life. Whoever it is that you're grateful for, my husband, I don't tell him enough, right? I'm grateful for him when he helps me get the kids out the door in the morning and I get to stay home and practice gratitude and drink my coffee and work out or whatever it is. Like I need to spend more time thanking him and truly showing those things because then it really
I
puts you
think
in
we
the
do.
action. Yeah.
I do too. I need to do that more. I need to, like my husband, um, how different people have different love languages, and his is
Mhm.
definitely one of them is like praise. And, and I need to just tell him how grateful I am for him even more and how awesome he is and what a great job he's doing. And yeah, I always say if you're feeling bad, then go help somebody.
Yep.
If you're feeling sad, then reach out to somebody and see how they're doing and tell them the reason why you're grateful for them. I mean, it could literally change their day.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of people always going through something. Everybody's
Hmm.
always going through something. Everybody's got shit, as I like to say. And everybody's got shit, and nobody's shit is worse than anybody else's. It's just your perspective. And it's so important to remind people that you're grateful for them, and then it shifts their energy, and then they want to be grateful for something else as well. And so it's just the greatest gift that you've given to me. I've always been grateful, but I never really understood the practice of gratitude. And I think that's a little bit different what we're talking about. So thank you for that. And I want to have you on like for 2 hours because there's so many things. I mean, just even in our conversation before we hit record, there were so many things that we touched on that I'd love to talk about. But I really do want people to understand this notion of resilience because I think in this day and age, we're fortunate to live in a time where there's access to a lot of things, but there's also a lot of resistance. And you really have to have resilience in this day and age. And I'm talking about something as simple as me getting this podcast going, right? Like just the frustrations with technology and like it kind of sometimes feels like, well, maybe I'm not meant to do this, right? Maybe this isn't for me because this is too hard. Or maybe starting a business because I don't have any money isn't the right thing for me. And maybe I should just go back to doing my 9 to 5 job that I'm miserable in. I mean, what would you say to that person that really needs to find that trust and that resilience and that passion to keep moving forward and going after your dreams?
Well, I think so much of what you said is so true. So many people, especially now, are just feeling resistance and fear and or being stuck, making excuses.
Hmm.
Uh, when it gets hard, they just want to give up. And you know what? It's gonna be hard. Anything I think worth going after, you're gonna hit road bumps. You're gonna hit speed bumps and go maybe fall flat on your face. I know I sure have many, many
Hmm.
times. But I mean, just like I was just talking to Brian Bogert, who's going to be coming to speak at our in person mastermind retreat. I was just talking to him yesterday, and I said, yeah, I remember when I was even starting my Unstoppable Life Mastermind. I remember the day I was launching it because it was my birthday, March 16th, 2020. Well, that was the day, the night before the news was coming on about, uh-oh, we've got a situation here. And
Yeah.
we had dinner reservations, and I was going to be launching this mastermind, and it was going to be this amazing day. We were going to the beach, and I said, honey, I think you might want to check our dinner reservations. He goes, oh, no, no, we're fine. And he woke up the next day, and I had the news on, and he just to see what was going on. And I said, yep, everything's shut down. And I said, well, I got to go upstairs. I'm launching my Unstoppable Life Mastermind. And he goes, what? The world is shut down and you're actually launching something called Unstoppable? And I'm like, yeah, because the show must go on. Like, I've been working on this for a long time. I believe in it. And I think that's really important is to get out of your head and get in your heart and ask yourself the right questions. When you're asking yourself constantly, what am I going to do? How am I going to get through this? You're all in your head. Fear comes up that whatever somebody told you as a kid that's still you're carrying whatever they said, even though, it's in your subconscious and it's when you ask yourself why, it puts you in your heart. It puts you
Mm,
in touch with the human spirit. The human spirit's powerful beyond measure. And I think when you can keep focusing on why you started, why you want to do something, it activates that passion and it allows you to kind of, as I say, put your head down and keep working when um, things get really tough. And I think that part of being resilient, we talked about this earlier, is really resilient people hunt for the good. They
mm,
focus on the solutions, not on the
yes.
problems. And I just remember back, when everything shut down, I had a good friend of mine. I still had a few clients that, I mean, I've had for 20 years. I love these ladies. I'm like, I don't
Mm,
ever want to get rid of them. They're just amazing. And one of them for 21 years. And the same week everything shut down, I was like, well, the gym shut down, so why don't we train over Zoom? And my friend had called me, who was a trainer and been a trainer a lot longer than I mean, she'd been a trainer for years. And I said, well, what are you going to do? And she goes, oh, well, I'm just going to wait till things get back to normal. And I was
mm,
like, no, you can't wait. Like, you got to take action now. Like, figure it out. Like, if you can't
yep.
do it this way, try it this way. I think so much of it starts with our mindset, and we have to focus on, like, what is the next right action step we can take, and remember that baby steps are still steps forward. um,
Yes.
but I think so many people get caught up in the fear, or that, they don't have the mindset of abundance. I'm not sitting here saying I don't get scared. I just do it scared. And
Do
every
it
time
anyway.
you do,
Yep.
and every time you do something scared, you develop more grit and you develop more
Mhm.
confidence. And, I'm so happy for you that you've started your podcast, and you are such an incredible speaker, Jen. When you got on stage, you made me cry. I was like, you were so incredible. I was like, you're in your element. This is where you need to be. I mean, this is where you were born to be. Not, I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah, I was just
Yes.
this is like, wow, yeah, this is it. But when I started my podcast, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like YouTubing everything. I had one tiny little laptop that I would sit up on books, and had a crappy microphone and one ring light, and it was and then I had some equipment that I barely knew how to use. And I remember Heather Monahan was one of my first guests, and just like, oh my gosh, I hope this is recording. I hope this is recording. And you just figure it out as you go along. And you know what? Nobody has it all figured out. And if they tell you they do, then run. Cuz I'm like,
Right?
yeah, But it's just like it's having that mindset of resilience, which is, I believe it starts with, you know, gratitude will make you a lot more joyous and free. So we already talked about that. But believing in yourself, surrounding yourself with people who believe in you. And, for me, I remember when I was really, really struggling, and I mean, after I got out of the hospital and I had to learn to walk again, and I went from having this thriving business to I lost it all. Not only that, I had $2.9 million worth of medical expenses. My leg was deformed. Just scars. I hated myself. I hated my life. It was terrible. It wasn't until I started shifting my perspective, and the quickest and easiest way to do that is with gratitude, and to start loving yourself. And I think sometimes we need somebody to love us before we can love ourselves. And I know that thankfully my husband loved me until I could love myself again. My doctor believed in me until I could believe in myself looking the way that I did again. And so I think community might be one of the most powerful ways to be resilient, because you just don't have to do it alone. For a long time, I felt like I did. And first of all, I don't want to do it alone, but also we are so much stronger. In fact, we're unstoppable when we're together. We can support each other, we can lean in on each other, we can learn from each other, and we can give each other a nudge when we know we need a kick in the pants to keep going. And so community is powerful. It's so important to find your right community and be in the rooms with people with big ideas who, you know, look, I'm sure, Jen, if you would have told maybe some people in your life that you wanted to start a podcast, they would have said, oh my gosh, why would you ever want to do something like that? But man, you tell me that, I'm like, okay, let's see. This is the kind of mic you need.
Mhm.
Riverside's a great platform. Get this many episodes out, recorded before you launch. And we're just going through bullet points of what you need. And then
Yeah.
everybody in the group cheering you on. That's the kind of people I want to be around, people that are helping you out along the way.
Lifting you up, supporting you in your dreams. I mean, in the old days, or at least, 10 to 15 years ago, you called them dream smashers, the people who would kind of tell you, oh, you can't do that. Kind of like when you moved from Dallas to LA, oh, you'll never make it. You won't be a professional dancer. And there you were dancing with MC Hammer. I mean, you have accomplished a lot of things with your mindset. And I think surrounding yourself with the right people and living in gratitude every day and trusting who you are innately and what your purpose and passion is in this day, in this life. Living that and staying true to that will keep you on your path forward and keep you resilient. And you certainly are the most shining example I can think of someone who's done that and beat the odds and
Mm.
come out on top. You've overcome so many things. Your CRPS, your just everything that you have done, Amberly. You've shifted it and turned your life around with mindset, and you are such an incredible just inspiration to so many women. And I want everyone listening to really hear what Amberly said about just dip your toe in, start something. If you're scared, just do it anyway. Just dip your toe in, start small, and start to feel that momentum of joy in doing something new and exciting for the first time, and see where it takes you. It doesn't need to be perfect right out of the gate. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to hit roadblocks. You're going to fall on your face, and that's okay. I mean, you talked about the pandemic. I mean, we were in the restaurant business and still are, but had multiple restaurants at that time and had to close one. And then we had to shift and go, okay, well, it's not business as usual. How can we move forward, right? If we can't do it this way, what does it look like? Where is the momentum going to take us? And I think that for anyone that's trying to overcome something or start something new or is in a transition, just keep moving forward in whatever way you can and start with your mindset, and it will take you far.
Yeah. And I left off one thing that, can I say something real quick?
I would love that. Yes.
Um, when you said CRPS, I do want people to know, like, one thing I left off, and this is actually the hardest thing for me, and it's rest and recovery, and I think it's a big thing in order to be resilient. And when you said CRPS, I was like, oh, I haven't really overcome that. Let me tell you something. And I had to really give myself grace for this, because when I just did this keynote, you know me, I love being around people, and I wanted to be at the whole entire event. I wanted to connect with more women. And I don't know if it was because of the extreme pain that I was in from flying, if it was the altitude of being in a different place and it was so dry, and just and I still get like, oh, a little nervous, and I have to turn my anxiety into excitement. um,
Yeah.
what it was, but I got through my keynote, and I got back up to the room a couple of hours later, and I had to give myself the whole rest of the day. I couldn't get up. If I wanted to, I felt so dizzy, like I was going to fall over. And then at one point, I got sick. I threw up.
Oh my
And
God.
I have had to learn to give myself rest, because I used to push myself and push myself and push myself so hard to where I'd end up in the hospital. And now, through a lot of being in the ER, um, I've learned to give myself rest, and I've actually had to reframe it. As an athlete in Texas, resting meant quitting, and I've had to reframe it as, no, resting is a part of my business strategy. So because I rested, I was able to fly out, at 5:30 in the morning the next day, get home and be with my family. But resting and recovering and rejuvenating is so important in order to be resilient. And I wanted to leave that off. I have a pacer methodology. And
Yep.
if you guys want it, I'll let you download it for free, because it's something I still use every day. And it's just something I tap into. It stands for perspective, acceptance, community, endurance, and rest. Is that last part? I wanted to leave that rest off, but I learned it's so important in order to be resilient. And you can text me at 818-214-7378. Just text the word grit, GRIT, just that word, and it'll give you that free downloadable playbook. And because I want your listeners to be able to implement this into their own lives. So when they're having a hard day, if you're listening and you're struggling, or you're in fear, or you're anxious, or you're sad, or feeling stuck, if you go through this methodology, it's what I use every single day. And if I'm not feeling resilient, I will go through this pacer methodology and say, what did I leave off? And I was like, oh, I need to call somebody. I need the community part of it. I need to talk to a girlfriend. So I hope that helps your listeners.
That's amazing. Amberly, I actually have in my notes to ask you about Pacer. And I'm so glad that you brought it up. I'm my listeners, you guys, this is such a key. Please do text Amberly and you will get that information. It's such a good reminder of how to check in on things that you haven't been taking care of, and how to remind yourself to do that. And so important what you just said about rest. I think, for those of us who grew up, in a time where you pushed through everything. I mean, that was the way it was done. You didn't rest. It was a badge of honor to say, I've worked a 14-hour day, right? I
Oh,
mean, that
yeah.
is the way. I mean, if you lived in the 80s, or corporate America in the 80s and 90s, and even early 2000s, I mean, I was working 14-hour days, and it was expected. And then it was expected that I was returning emails until all hours of the night. And that was just
Yeah.
part of the way things were. And we are now saying, and it is more important than ever, that we understand to be resilient is to rest. You cannot do one without the other. And so I have had to give myself permission often lately, because we're one of those, we're the type of people, we just go getters, go, 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 go. And then you hit a wall and then you're no good for anybody. And so you can't
Exactly.
be resilient that way. And giving yourself grace and letting yourself rest is the way you stay resilient in the long run. So thank
Exactly.
you so much for sharing that, Amberly. I could literally talk to you for hours. You are so incredible. I know my guests are going to want you back for more at some point. So hopefully we'll get to do that. I wish we could continue and talk for another hour, but I know that you've got you've got a manuscript to get done for your new book, Joy Through the Journey, which is coming out in the spring. I've already pre-ordered it. So everyone,
Thank
you
you.
will. Yes, of course. I've already got it pre-ordered. My husband keeps asking me, do you realize this book isn't coming till April, whatever? I said,
That's what
honey, it's a pre-order.
I I just had a meeting with Porchlight, who's one of the book distributors, and they're so nice. And I said, yeah, I was like, my publisher wanted me to go ahead and promote the book. And I was like, I was shocked. I was taken back. I was like, I was not expecting that. And I said, and so many people have been texting me going, I pre-ordered this and it says it's not coming until March of 2025. And I'm like, I know, but hey, yeah.
But it's going to be amazing because it's going to show up on everyone's doorsteps and they're going to forgotten about it and then it'll be there. So I cannot wait to read Joy Through the Journey. Your book, True Grit and Grace, truly it was like a roller coaster ride of emotions and resilience and perseverance and success. And there's so much more to your story. And I'm sure you'll be sharing that in Joy Through the Journey, and so much more that you have to share. So if you ever have an opportunity to be in Dallas, to listen to Amberly's show, the Amberly Lago show on podcasts, it's on, I think, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, anywhere you can get your podcasts. How else can our listeners find you, Amberly?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Well, amberlylago.com is where you'll find everything. You'll find our annual Unstoppable Success Summit, which will be in April in Dallas, 2025. You can find my book, the mastermind, upcoming events, podcast, all the fun stuff. The behind the scenes shenanigans, though, that's usually on Instagram at Amberly Lago Motivation.
I love it. Amazing. Thank you, Amberly, so much for your time. And I can't wait to see you soon.
Thank you. I can't wait to see you. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thanks for being here. Thank you again for listening to Where Passion Meets Purpose. If you're enjoying this show, please subscribe and download it so you don't miss an episode every single week. And if you think you have a friend who might benefit from listening, please share it with them as well. If you'd like to contact me, you can always reach me through email on my website at jenmentasana.com and my social media, Jen_Mentasana. And you can DM me there and I'll always respond, and we can connect about topics on the show or anything else you'd like to discuss. Thanks again for tuning in.